Been a long time coming, man. I'm sure we had to sit back and allow what's going on in the world to resonate in our minds and in our spirit, and really analyze what truly transpired. Now, today is November 11th, 2024, and it's a good day. It's a good day for America. The world is responding. There's going to be a lot of rich millionaires when it comes to the cryptocurrency. Wall Street is responding. And we need to pretty much get on a pathway to getting to another level in life. And it's a thing because we have to come together collectively as human beings. We have to come together as, American citizens. We got to make a grand decision on what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and why we're doing it the way that we choose to do it. Because the American system was under the radar, and this past presidential election said a lot in terms of the American people, and a lot in terms of the American people. It shows us that we are, pretty much on the same sheet of music, but the way the victory was won, how it just, it was a blowout, over 5 million vote to the popular vote. And then now the Democratic Party is pretty much trying to fight for their purpose. And the Democratic Party, as we know it, will not be existing anymore. Now, this is the last, they're on their last legs. They're going to do any and everything that they need to do to survive or justify their positions, because those individuals who went all in with the Democratic Party, now owners, the check writers, are looking at them basically, with a side, because they have to justify why they should continue to fund their operations or continue to employ them. Because a lot of people, pretty much their careers are over because they went in on the losing party. And it wasn't just a loss. It was something that was so, I'm sure the only one who was surprised to see how the Republicans defeated the Democrats, because just when they closed the polls on the East Coast, and from the start, when he jumped out the Electoral College, he got up to 111, 119 to 3. And then when you had the breakdown by counties, I sat back and said, wow, I can't believe that this is happening. And it's actually a good thing. It's a thing. Good morning to you. It's actually a good thing because, like I said, I invest in cryptocurrency. I have a 401k, and I'm looking at, where Bitcoin is today. I'm looking at where, the potential of Dogecoin, the potential of Shimu. So if you haven't, go ahead and get you some cryptocurrency, because the market is funding. And good morning to you. So we got a few things to cover today, because the Democratic Party, from a political analyst perspective, from a political scientist perspective, from a historical perspective, this might be the last leg of the party, because there's no way that the party can exist moving forward when it shows that the Republican Party typically resonates with the American people, whether you are a registered Democrat or independent or anything. But clearly the Republican Party, by winning by 5 million votes when it comes to the popular vote, says a lot. And the Democratic Party, they want to turn the page. They want to continue to be progressive. They want to continue to tend to be immoral to a common American person. You don't even have to be a believer of God, but without a shadow of a doubt that our children should be protected. We know that our children should be protected. But when you look at the Democratic Party, are they really protecting our children, or are they indoctrinating our children to something that's not good? And if you can see what's really going on with their process of the grooming and, their sexual, whatever they do, is clearly a play that they want to affect the children. Now, I need you guys to, jump in those comments, hit the like, hit the subscription, because it helps the algorithm. And I appreciate what's going on right now, because a lot of people are starting to resonate towards the channel. And we're going to keep that same energy. But the Democratic Party is really under the microscope. And in terms Democratic Party survive after the next 4 years. I don't see that happening. I see a lot of individuals who are going to get in American politics running for Senate, for Congress as independents because guilty by association. Because in California, Proposition 3 passed. Okay, Proposition 3 passed in California, 62% to 37. And Proposition 3 in the state of California was a Democratic policy pushed by liberals, pushed by the Democratic Party. And Proposition 3 passed, and Proposition 3 removes all rules for marriage, opening the door to child marriages, incest, and polygamy. And it changes the California's constitution, even though same-sex marriage is already on the books. So this is why the Democratic Party is on its last legs. This is why the Democratic Party will not even make it through the midterms because of policies like this. And I'm going to say this again. Proposition 3 passed in California, which is one of the most liberal states. And this is why Gavin Newsom and the governor and the Democrats are sitting back trying to put in some type of safety net so the Trump administration, won't hurt their brand, because Proposition 3 passed, which removes all rules for marriage, opening the door to child marriages, incest, and polygamy. It changes California's constitution, even though same-sex marriage is already legal. So guilty association. Why would anybody want to be associated with a party that's sick like this? Think about it. And I'm reading this straight out of my ballot. I voted no on Proposition 3, and Proposition 3 passed in California, and only 71% is reporting. So 62% of the voters, 7.3 million Californians, 7.3 million liberals, Democrats voted yes for the bill. And the Black community, the Latino community, conservative whites pretty much understand that we cannot feed the party anymore. We cannot be guilty by association. And this presidential election showed a lot in a sense of that the party must be dismantled. Okay. And that's the sad part about it. And then on Proposition 6, this hurts even more. Okay, because Proposition 6, our organization, local senator here in the Gardena area, Stephen Bradford, Lori Wilson, who's the actual legislator for the state of California, we put Proposition 6, and Proposition 6 did not pass, but Proposition 6, let me see here where I'm at, Proposition 6 ends slavery in California and upholds human rights and dignity for everyone. It replaces the involuntary servitude work programs, which originated from slavery, and it aligns with the 13th, and it aligns with the national effort to amend the 13th Amendment. So this is what we're dealing with. So if you're a Democrat in California, they voted yes for incest and to make parents optional to marry their children in Proposition 3. Which is sad, which opens the door for polygamy, incest, child marriages. And it also says right here that dads and moms are optional. So the state voted yes for that. This liberal Democratic state voted yes, but it voted no to end slavery. And if you did not know, the Constitution has a slavery clause. So the 13th Amendment says neither slavery nor voluntary servitude unless criminalized. Okay, that's the criminalization clause that mass incarceration, is built on. And then if you look in terms of from a historical perspective, Bill Clinton, he pretty much signed the 3 strikes and you out bill, which is mass incarceration for communities of color. So all this time, we've been promoting a party that pretty much wants to promote slavery. Clearly, California shows it. And it was a fight because let me see here, 72% is reporting right now, and 6.2 million voted no to end slavery in California, and 5.3 at this time voted yes. So it's pretty much 50-50. But how can a Black man, a Latino man, or conservative white be associated with a political party that wants to keep slavery on the books? And this is the scary thing for them, because they say, Donald Trump is a threat of our democracy. So just imagine we break away from this Democratic monster and we slay it and cut his head off and go directly to the source. And just imagine Donald J. Trump went on and signed an executive action and amend the 13th Amendment, taking the criminalization clause off of the Constitution and freed and liberated blacks. Come on now. They are so ignorant because they're opening the door for him to do things that they should have done. So if that happens, then what is that going to do for his presidency? And if he does that, then once you get the slavery clause off of the Constitution, then the reparations conversation can actually come into fruition. So think about that. So the Democratic Party, I believe that the powers that be are pretty much into regime changing and nation building, because they are literally tearing down the Democratic Party as we know, because nobody in their sane mind will be associated or do things like this if they really knew what was going on. And Kamala Harris said it best that there's only two types of supporters. They're check writers and they're voters, and her hands are tied. So the check writers pretty much push for Proposition 3, in which all Democrats were behind. And Proposition 3 in the state of California removes all rules for marriage, opening the door for child marriages, incest, and polygamy. It changes the California Constitution, even though same-sex marriage is already on the books, by making moms and dads optional. They're putting it passed, so they're putting children at risk. And this careless measure that harmed family passed in the state of California. And this is why there's a Democratic exodus. This is why, we are not supporting. And the Latino community, they showed up and showed out, okay, because they understand what's going on. And when they talk to blacks, we didn't even support the so-called sister. We didn't even support so-called Kamala Harris. So why would the Latinos vote for Harris if the brothers are not even vouching for their so-called sister, who happens to be a daughter of immigrants, okay? And she clearly not black, because if you were black, that wouldn't even be a question or a conversation. But just to be associated with a proposition that actually passed in terms of Proposition 3, pretty much removes all rules for marriage, opening the door for child incest and polygamy. It changes California's constitution, even though same-sex marriage is already legal, by making moms and dads optional. And what they're doing, they're putting children at risk with this careless measure, and they chose that willingly. It is what it is. It is what it is. And I see in the comments, y'all just hate women, laughing, whatever. So who's laughing? Okay. He who laughs last laughs best. Do you think the Democratic is laughing right now when they are pretty much $20 million in debt from running a campaign, putting a woman in a position who's supposed to be the president of the United States? It's not even women. It's not even women. Okay. It's not misogyny. It was the economy, inflation, and immigration. Okay, economy, inflation, and immigration. That was the issue. And then when that woman supports a bill that pretty much will align child marriages and incest, polygamy, and all of that, think about that. And then a president who they're calling her behind the scenes, the mother of mass incarceration. So the reason why Proposition 6 did not pass, because you had a prosecutor who in American history has locked up more human beings than any elected official. Then the people have spoken. It's not about women. It's policy over party. The Democratic Party is the party of slavery. Okay. And they put a woman up to basically try to win us over because they thought that they can put in, women's freedom rights. And I guess on their polling, or guess on their data, that abortion meant so much, okay, to them. So they went full throttle on abortion. And this is, the American people, there has to be some safety nets. When they asked her the question about abortion, what is it? Is it the second trimester, third trimester? They asked her, is it the, 4, 5, 6, 7 months? And she said, come on. And she refused to answer the question. And her whole answer was like, I support the women's right to choose, because those are the talking points and the check writers of Planned Parenthood, who pretty much made her not even be a human being. She was operating like a bot. She could not even have conversation. You asked her about the economy, her go-to, and we stood down. Black Americans stood down. We literally stood down. And when it comes to, the third party option, in which I was a part of with the Jesus Christ. We're waiting on the numbers right now. But you're talking about almost 5.5 to 6 million people voted down ballot. Believe me, anybody that was a Trump supporter, voted for Trump. Okay. Registered Democrats who voted down ballot vote for Trump, but it was a vote against Harris. And you write in the comments, Black America got smart. And now we're going to get even smarter and chop the head off of democracy, because we cannot be associated with a party, especially in the state of California, that voted yes to keep slavery on the book, and then voted yes on 3 to pretty much change the marriage. Let me see here. They voted yes on Proposition 3, to remove all rules for marriage. This is Democratic, California. Proposition 3 passed. It removes all rules for marriage, opening the door to child marriage, incest, polygamy. It changes the California Constitution, even though same-sex marriage is a thing. And then by making moms and dads optional, it put, and I'm reading this directly. So California voted for that. That's democratic. That's democracy. That's democratic. That's democracy. Absolutely. And this is why the Democratic Party will never be the same. This is why there's a mass exodus, because the party has moral compass. You can abort babies after the baby shower, after the gender reveal. And then they passed Proposition 3, which removes all marriage, opening the door to child marriages, incest, and polygamy. It changed the California Constitution, even though same-sex marriage is already legal, by making moms and dads optional. That's what California did. And this is why in the state of California, there was 5 million votes outside of the Republican and the Democratic Party. I looked the numbers up. Left JFK on the ballot, who was running as an independent, who conceded and pretty much started promoting Trump. But California left it on the ballot thinking that was going to hurt Donald Trump, but it hurt them, because in California alone, he got 800,000 votes. Okay. The third party got 1.5 million votes. The third party did. And then the down ballot votes, you're talking about almost a 4.5 to 5 million just in the state of California voted down ballot. And these were Democrats that chose not to support the Democratic Party. Because if these individuals was MAGA and supporters of Trump, they would have voted for Trump. So a no vote for Harris was a vote Republican Party. Okay. But we didn't want to just be a part of the MAGA, because now we can actually work together with the Republican Party as nonpartisan independents, because we don't want to party. We don't want to be associated with a party. So this is why we're doing it. And the jackass is lost. Okay. And the donkey's done. Okay. It's over. So we figured this thing out. We finally grew some. And it seems it was purposeful, because when you have a party that wants to remove all rules for marriage and open the door for incest, polygamy, and changes the California Constitution, even though same-sex marriage is legal, by making moms, when you do things like that, and then you vote yes, or pretty much vote no. Let me see here, Prop 6. Let me see here on Proposition 6. They voted no to end slavery in the state of California. Can you believe that? 5 million voted yes, but 6.2 million, which is approximately 53.8%, voted no. And pretty much Proposition 6 ends slavery in California and upholds human rights and dignity for everyone. It replaces the involuntary servitude, and it aligns with the national effort to amend the 13th Amendment. So could you imagine that the Trump administration, who's looking for partners, nonpartisan, independent, non-political people, to pretty much have conversations with, could you imagine if Donald Trump signed an executive action to amend the 13th Amendment and take the criminalization clause off of slavery? They left the door wide open for a Republican to champion Black America. Wow. The Democratic Party, I don't know who's running the show, but to leave that door open, and just a possibility, because you don't even, the history shows that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. Okay, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. He signed the Emancipation Proclamation. He allowed newly freed slaves, or he recruited newly freed slaves to fight on the Union side to defeat the Democratic South. And it happened. So now we're looking at a situation where there's a Republican president, okay, who they tried to assassinate, who they tried to trump up all these charges, tried to lock him up, tried to do all of things, and he's still standing. And then he has the opportunity and a potential situation where he could sit down with people like me, people from the black community, activists, and work with us and actually put us on it, because they told me I could just pick my position, and it is what it is. So could you imagine if Donald J. Trump signed an executive order to remove the criminalization off the Constitution, which pretty much on the federal level ends slavery in the United States of America? And some of you really don't understand, because slavery never ended, because in December of 1865, when the Civil War ended, the Vagrancy Act of 1866 was signed. Listen to me, was signed on January 15th of 1866. And it meant any newly free slave, blacks, okay, newly free slaves appeared to be homeless, jobless, wanderers, or vagrant. Pretty much the law mandates that they basically put a ball and chain on their ankle if they were a runner, pretty much forced them to be in involuntary servitude, which is slavery. And the state of California voted no to end slavery. And pretty much this is the reason why the reparations conversation, comes somehow to just go away, because there's no way you could pay slaves reparations. And this is why Newsom rejected it. And this is why he made an atonement, which is an apology. And right now, Proposition 6 fight starts again, because we won it on the midterms. And, it's time to make it happen. But we have to be nonpartisan because if we're working with the Democratic Party said no, they don't want to end it, but they voted yes on Proposition 3, which ends all rules for marriage, which opens the door for child marriages, incest, polygamy, and it changes the California Constitution, even though same-sex marriage is on the books, by making moms and dads optional, and it puts children at risk. And that's the bill that the Democratic Party has passed in the state of California. And this is why there's a mass exodus of the parties from blacks and the Latino community, because we're done dealing with the party of slavery. We're done dealing with the party of Jim Crow. And at the end of the day, the Democratic Party turns out to be anti-American. And if you are anti-American, you are anti-Christ, because America is a God-fearing constitutional republic, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God. So therefore, if you have a problem with this bill passing and you are associated with the Democratic Party, then that make you guilty by association. And the Bible talks about, God will punish the oppressors. But how can God punish the Democratic Party if we continue to drive the party, if we continue to support the party? And this is why the party is being dismantled as we speak. The party is being dismantled as we speak. And then they're, violating our children with, hormone drugs and everything like that. So we got to figure this thing out. We really have to figure this thing out, because God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. And today is the 11th, and the number one is knowledge, because that's the first gift that God gives us. So knowledge is power. So we really got to have these conversations. So let's really focus on, abandoning the party. What does that look like? And uniting as a one force here in America. We have to figure that out. Let me see here, Paul, I'm in the comments right now. LGBTQ. Let's get back to Trump quickly. So the LGBTQ community actually lost an alphabet, okay, because Trump came back and let me see here. I think I got it up. But Trump basically came back with a bill to pretty much, he's already, since he has the Senate and the Congress, they said that their job is to help him pass some of these executive actions, expeditiously. And that's real, because he's pretty much taken the T off of trans, because all of the Biden-Harris policies to protect trans children is pretty much taking, Trump is taking these things off of the books. And don't trust what I'm saying. Go back, go do your work, go do your research, because Trump said he's going to sign an executive action to make it just male and female. Okay. He basically stated that he will prosecute, okay, fire, okay, or have something to do with when you have teachers, pretty much protecting or talking to adolescent children about them being, having a boy trapped in a girl's body or whatever, because Trump has come back and he's literally, and I'm gonna show you. Just hang in there. Let me find my remote. Hold on one second. Y'all stay right there. We're gonna watch this. We're gonna watch this together. Because like I said, God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. So since I got y'all on, we're gonna really have this conversation. You guys are gonna listen to this breaking news right now, because Trump not playing. He's not playing at all. So what he's doing right now, he's going to let me see here. Let's check this out. Watch this. Check this out.
Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery.
So this is the real
minor children.
Project 2025.
I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures, and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states.
I agree.
Very quickly.
I
will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth. Here's my plan to stop the
All right. Here's the next one.
Will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare, and will be terminated from the program immediately.
Liberal schools.
I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children.
Come on.
The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers, which are in no way licensed or approved for this use.
Already getting stuff done.
Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that youth will no longer meet.
Okay. So basically, here it is in a nutshell. Down. Number one, Trump's plan already in place. Revoke Joe Biden's cruel policy to so-called gender affirming. So that the LGBTQ community is T. So that trans thing is done. Number two, Trump will sign an executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. Number three, ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpaying dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures. Pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. Already getting stuff done. Number four, declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in chemical or physical mutilation of a minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated for the program immediately. Boom. Number five, support the creation of a private right of act for victims to sue doctors who have unforcibly performed these procedures on minor children. That's number five. Number six, the Department of Justice, the DOJ, will investigate Big Pharma and big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients. Number seven, investigate Big Pharma on others who have illegally marketed hormones and pukers, which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. Man. Number 8, inform states and school districts that if any teacher, school official suggests to it they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be facing severe consequences. Number 9, promote positive. This is the key. Promote positive education, the nuclear family, the roles of the mother and father, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. Man, that's a hand clap right there. Let me see here. Do we have a couple more? But I'm going to go back to 9. Number 10, ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States, wait for it, the only genders that are recognized by the United States of America are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. Wow. Wow. And this is a threat to their democracy. Then one is knowledge. And, knowledge is the first gift that God gives us. So check it out. This is number 11. Protect the rights of the parents from being allowed their minor children to assume a gender which is consent. So meaning that if your child is going through these things, you cannot hide it from the parent. You got to sit back and talk to, the parents, and the parent got to sign off on it because the parent is the parent. But I'm going to go back to number 9. This is the best part for me, because this is how they stood up the black community. They got rid of the nuclear family. So listen, number 9, promote positive education about the nuclear family, which is man, woman, and child, and the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. And this is President Trump. So they talking about Project 2025 and all of that crap. Those were pretty much what we call dog whistle politics and scare tactics, because everybody that is of a believer, all parents, we believe in the truth. Okay, so when you talk about the genders, transgenders, and all of that, they're just a 0 point something percent. So how did we get behind that? Because we got turning to a Better Black America TV. This is why I can only offer you the write-in candidate, Jesus Christ, because I had a strange feeling that we were going to be liberated, that we were going to be freed, and that the Democratic Party would be, no longer. The Democratic Party will not return from this, because we are starting to see, and all of these things that we've been talking about, it's been a transition, because the Democrats shouldn't have been in power, since 1865. But come to find out that when Harris about, let's turn the page, and they want to turn the page to change the face of human beings and change children's sexual organs and all of that. But when they turned the page, you know what that next page said? The end. So we are seeing and witnessing the end of the Democratic Party as we know it. And it's a beautiful thing. So I wanted to share that with you. And like I said, man, bless Allah, freedom of speech. Exactly. We are slaves. Okay. So since we are still slaves, from a political perspective, when it comes to the Constitution, the fight to end slavery starts now. Because when you have a president in office that's doing these things, okay, now for us to separate ourselves from the two-party system, what we call this duopoly, and you have real black men, not the P. Diddy's or the Jay-Z's, or have that can pretty much go to that, because one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, is something that we also all supposed to be celebrating. We should not be sitting back fighting against each other, doing whatever we're doing, because America has spoken. And another thing we can clear up right now is that the 2020 election was actually stolen, but I'll do a video on that. But what's your thoughts, man? You guys are in the comments. Let me see here. Trump should remove the Amendment 22. I'm not sure about that one, but the 13th Amendment is the slavery clause. And it reads, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude unless criminal. That's criminalization clause, which leads us to the position today and what we were trying to amend in California. But somehow California voted the bill, as California wants to have blacks documented, or people documented as slaves, but they voted yes to remove, on Proposition 3, to remove all rules for marriage and opening the door to just incest and polygamy. It changes the California Constitution, even though same-sex marriage is already legal, by making moms and dads optional, and they're putting our at risk. And this is pretty much what California passed, and it just shows that, you know, Trump is pretty much about to, if this is on the federal level, this is going to go down to the state level. And this is why he pushed Roe's way to the state level. And now he's going to pretty much, you know, get into some issues, because when you know, when you look at these things, I mean, it's flabbergasting to me, because they say that he's a monster and he's the enemy and all of that. But it seems that they were trying to demonize him. They was trying to demonize him so they can actually do what they do. So we're going to listen to it one more time. Check it out.
The chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth.
Come on.
On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance,
that's democracy,
and ultimately performing surgery on minor children.
That's democracy.
Can you believe this?
No.
I will sign a new executive instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age.
Come on.
I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to pay for these procedures, and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states.
I agree.
Very quickly.
Very quickly.
I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth. Here's my plan to stop the no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare, and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unfortunately performed these procedures on minor children.
He already getting to work.
Department of Justice Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine if deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transition in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients. In this case, very vulnerable. We will also see whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers, which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school suggests
y'all teachers better watch out
that they will know.
Y'all teachers better walk out. So Trump's plan on day one, number one, and he had a press conference yesterday. Number one, revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender affirming care. Okay, so the LGBTQ community has pretty lost the T. Okay, the T's gone. So, okay, and it's all Democratic. Number two, sign a new executive order. Executive order is pretty much, he just signs it into law without Congress. They could veto it, but a new executive order instructing federal agencies to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. Okay. Number three, ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for the procedures, and pass a law prohibiting child sex mutilation in all 50 states. And if you did not know, Harris' campaign pretty much wanted to have gender transforming, surgeries for prisoners. And she went on record and said that. And I think that his commercial pretty much took him over the top, because when you have gender affirming surgeries for prisoners, I mean, come on, you pretty much have lost your way. Number four, declare that any hospital, healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet the federal and safety standards for Medicare, Medicaid, and will be terminated from the program immediately. So you hit them in the pocket. Okay. Number five, support the creation of the private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforcibly performed these procedures on minor children. And I know D Wade looks stupid right now, changing his head to a little tranny, whatever it is. Okay, number six, Trump's plan The DOJ will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients. Think about that. Number 7, Trump's plan: investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and blockers which are in no way licensed or approved for use. Okay, Trump's plan. Number 8, inform states, school districts. This is the one I like. That if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences. Trump's plan. Number 9, day 1, promote positive education about the nuclear family, God, man, woman, and child. And that's a beautiful thing. Promote family, the roles of the mothers and fathers, celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. Number 10, he's going to ask Congress, this is Trump's plan, ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders, this is key right here, the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female. And we all learned that XY and XX chromosomes. And I'm going to say this again. Number 10, ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. So show me your birth certificate. And number 11, last but not least, protect the rights of the parents from being forced to allow their minor children to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parents' consent. And this is why they paraded Dwayne Wade and tried to make it cool so you can just try to, change your children. I mean, like I said, democracy lost, the American people won. God bless America. Democracy lost and America won. So all of the fear tactics and all of the things that's going on is a bunch of lies. And I'm going to end with this lie here, because in the state of California, in the LA Unified School District, and let me see here, the LA Unified School District, they say it's nationwide, but I can see how the Democrats are lying. Unified School District officials are investigating the racist text. Okay, somebody sent out a text message talking about after the election, to report to a particular location because you're going to be put back in slavery. And I'm sitting back and I'm saying, wow, that's democracy. That's the same thing. Follow history. That's the same thing the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan did in the South prior or after the Civil War. They used fear tactics and intimidation to force you to be scared, to think that you are going to be hurt or whatever. So think about a black kid in South Central Los Angeles. If this was real, where are they going to go? Where's the plantation? They're talking about reports so you could pick cotton. Okay, where are they going to pick the cotton at? Think about it. And as bad as some of these kids are, I'm sure parents will pretty much be sitting back saying, where's the bus? Because I'm going to drop Man off and Pookie and Ray them off because they need to get up out of here because I'm having a problem, raising my children because they broke up the nuclear family. They forced a woman to just be the parent, her own parent. And if the kid is, a little shaky, they got a situation where they can actually change that boy into a girl. So this is why the Democratic Party is dead. This is why the Democratic Party showed up and showed out. And this is why the Democratic Party did not support a female, because the female was their blood sacrifice. Harris was not qualified. She did not pass the oral the oral interview. Okay. Yes, she had, position and her resume looked good, but she's suspect. Okay, so now we're dealing in a time where the Democratic Party is going to do any and everything that they can. And they're going to make us, they're going to try to make us more divided because they know that after an election, people start coming together. And when you see Trump putting out these mandates in terms of resonating with American citizens, that we can actually come together. The election is over. Okay, the election is over. Instead of us coming together, the Democrats got to prove and fight, for their lives. Because when I looked at an interview, I don't know the guy's name, but the campaign strategist for Harris, he was on a news outlet and he was pretty much, wouldn't even let individuals talk. And all he was basically saying, how he feels. Nobody cares how I feel. Nobody cares how you feel. It all makes sense when it comes to what's right. What is the right thing to do for people? So instead of getting in our feelings and being upset, okay, she lost, but now we can come together as a people, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who voted for Trump and who did not vote for Trump agree with what he's planning to do on day one. This is why they tried to throw that Project 2025, which turned out to be debunked. This is why they said he's a threat to their democracy, because clearly they want, Proposition 3 passed. So they want to remove all to marriage, opening the door to child marriages, incest, and polygamy, and change California Constitution, even though same-sex marriage is legal, by making moms and dads optional, by putting our children at risk. That's a Democratic policy that they want. And Democrats voted no to end slavery in the state of California. It means we can't even push the line. So at the end of the day, this is a wake-up call for American people. America is a constitutional republic. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, one nation and under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So now we can finally come together. I'm officially a nonpartisan independent. Okay, I abandoned the Democratic Party. I voted against the Democratic Party in millions upon the millions of Americans. Victory. Popular election. He didn't even defeat Hillary in the popular vote. He beat Hillary in the electoral college, but he beat her on the electoral college blowout. 331, and some people were projecting 290, but he got 331. He won all the swing states. This is crazy. So how can that party exist? So now when you look at it, and he defeated the Democratic Party by the sum of 1 billion votes on the national scale. 7 states did not allow write-in candidates, so were actually forced to vote down ballot. And there were actually, millions upon millions of voters who voted for Jill Stein. They left RFK on the ballot, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the ballot. I've seen in California, he got 800,000 votes. So I truly believe he got 1 million votes nationwide, because they did put him on the ballot in California. But the write-in candidates, Jesus Christ was number 1, number 2 was Mickey Mouse, and number 3 were D's Nuts. And was basically fact check everything that I say. And this is where it all comes and it starts to make sense, because on the states that had the write-in, this is why it came at number 1. Okay, voted for God. Mickey Mouse was number 2, and D's Nuts was number 3. So you're talking about almost 2 million votes of a other, meaning a write-in candidate. So we're going to sit back and, they're still, but one of the, shows leading towards the end of the week, I'm going to be looking and doing my diligence to get that information. But this thing is a beautiful thing. So now we can move on, because blacks are independent and free. We have political party affiliation, and we will be, trying our best to work with the Trump administration, because one thing, when you got the black man on your team, this is how you win, because Trump did say no tax on tips, and then he also no tax on overtime. So the black man is going to take the mantle and make sure that he does that. So when he says no tax on overtime, no tax on tips, this is what we're going to be pressing. We're going to make sure that bill, no tax on tips and no tax on overtime. And if he signs that no tax on overtime, then without a shadow of doubt, that's a bill for everybody. Okay, because the working class and the middle class always get the okie doke. So now is to make sure that this president who won by a landslide, who they tried to assassinate, they tried to kill his character, they trumped up all these charges, and look what's going on. So now our job is to see this constitutional republic work. We can't practice democracy, because democracy want to have you fighting. But when you talk about a constitutional republic, we're going to basically hold you accountable. So the accountability is, you said what you said, and we're going to make sure that this happened. No tax on tips. So the strippers and, the waitresses, y'all don't have to get taxed on that, which is extra revenue. And then if you're working overtime, he said no tax on overtime. So I'm writing on tips and overtime, and I'm going to basically be a part of the operation with you to basically push the line, and we're going to just start seeing how democracy works, because we want the Democratic Party to be bye-bye. We don't want it to exist ever again, because we got to chop the head off of the Democratic Party, because it's the party of slavery, it's the party of Jim Crow. Clearly, it's a party of the LBGTQ, LMNOP, and the killings. And day one on Donald Trump already had a press conference, and I'll let you hear it. He already said what he's going to do with those policies. So it's a win-win. So we got to figure that thing out. So democracy is dead. And when Harris says that, there's another talking point I want to leave you with. When Harris says, we're going to turn the page, because, we don't want to go back. Okay, we tried to get you to go back because you want to turn the page in the same book. So when she turned the page, it said the end. Get your butt up out of here. The end. Over the Democratic Party. Over for the Democratic Party. And now it's time for the American people to do what we need to do. That's hold our sitting president accountable. And that's, make sure that, that was a good campaign when it comes to no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. So we want this to happen, because that will immediately help the working class. It will help the working class and the middle class, because the working and middle class punches that clock. They're on the clock. They're on the grind. So we got to make sure that, we can hold our president accountable, because this is what a constitutional republic does. And the Democratic Party, don't fall for the okie doke, because the Democratic Party is the party that's trying to scare you. These text messages that they're putting out about, meeting at certain places, and they send in blacks and browns to pretty much report, to jump on a white bus so you can actually start picking cotton. I mean, America is America. They know where I'm at. They have our locations. They know everything. So tell me why they don't know who's sending these text messages. You know why? Because it's them. They're using the same scare tactics that the KKK used, fear, intimidation, after the Civil War, when we were literally free after the Emancipation. And then for the ignorant people, no disrespect when I say ignorant people, meaning the people who know too much. I've saw some people in my community, the black community, they were charging $2 to vote. And, and I'm sitting back saying the reason that they charged $2 to vote, because that was the Democratic Party, using fear and intimidation and pretty much putting up $2, which was a lot of money at the time for a poor person back then. In terms of a poll tax, they were doing that against blacks, because blacks were voting Republican because they just defeated the party of slavery. And the first time in American history where blacks supported a Democrat is when the Irishman, John F. Kennedy, JFK. And then JFK's running mate was Lyndon Baines Johnson, which was a Dixiecratic Democratic Southerner who pretty much he needed to win the ticket, just like Obama needed the racist Democratic Southerner and Joe Biden. And he pretty much won the election. But then when they assassinated him, they allowed the Dixiecratic Democratic Southerner to become president. And this is how he pretty much changed the black race into an ethnicity. And he championed the Women's Live movement, which is the women's organizations. He championed the LGBTQ, and he pretty much created a minority class and put the black race down in that minority class to pretty much make sure that we had no room to grow. Because if you do the math, Civil Rights Act was signed in 1964. We should have been celebrating 60 years of the Civil Rights Act, but we celebrated 60 years of Pride, which is the LBGTQ LMNOP, which it lose that T. So the T is going to be gone. LBQ. Okay. LMNOP. They championed the Women's Lives organization, which women's, they pretty much had their 60 years of women empowerment. And that includes being spearheaded white women married to white men. So it's another form of slavery, and just like another form of white supremacy. So just like the text messages that's being sent out to black and browns in South Central Los Angeles, these are scare tactics, the same thing that the KKK did. They want to use fear and intimidation, but the party is over. Nobody want to be associated with a party that voted yes for Proposition 3, which removes all rules for marriage, opening the door for churches, incest, and polygamy. It changes the California Constitution. Even same-sex marriage is already legal. By making moms and dads optional, it puts children at risk. And this is what the Democratic Party passed. And they voted to end slavery in California. So therefore, if you are a black man, if you are a brown man, let's abandon the party because the party of slavery cannot exist anymore. And I'm going to say again, the party of slavery cannot exist anymore. And Donald Trump on day one is already tearing up, their whole operation. And I'm going to play this one more time and I'm going to get up out of here because I just saw some people that chimed in, and Donald Trump had a press conference on what he's going to do. And he put out 11 mandates on what he's going to do day one. And we're going to talk about it. So listen to this, and I'm going to do some little commentary, and then I'll be up out of here.
Day one. The chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. Day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers.
Come on.
Mutating their physical appearance.
Day one.
And ultimately performing surgery on minor children.
That's right.
Can you believe this?
Yeah.
I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal
Democratic
agency
Party dead,
to cease all programs that
get them likes to 100. I appreciate y'all.
And gender transition
to 100.
I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures.
Wow.
And pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth, here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, will no longer meet federal health and safety standards, Medicaid and Medicare, and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed procedures on minor children.
That's crazy.
The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to at the expense of vulnerable patients.
Yeah,
in this case,
very
vulnerable
children.
We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers, which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they will no longer meet.
Okay. So he was saying any teacher that's basically talking about a child that's trapped in a different body. So there's 11. I'm going to go through all 11. On day one, Trump's plan, revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender affirming care. So the LGBTQ is taking a loss. They losing that T. Okay. Trump's plan. Number 2, sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. Okay. This is the president saying this on day one. Okay. Number 3, ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being promote or pay for any procedures and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. Wow. Day one, Trump's plan. Number 4, declare that any hospital provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program immediately. And this is Trump talking about his first plan. Trump's plan for day one. Number 5, support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforcibly performed these procedures on minor children. Trump's plan, day one. Number 6, the Department of Justice, the DOJ, will investigate Big Pharma and big hospital networks to determine whether they deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients. And he said in this case, very vulnerable patients, and those are children. Protect the children. Trump's plan. Number 7, investigate Big Pharma or others who have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers, which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. Okay, Trump's plan, day one. Number 8. I love this one. Inform states and school districts, okay, that if any teacher or school official suggests a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will face severe consequences. I love that one. And this one, I like this one even better. And I'm a nonpartisan independent. I like this one better. Trump's plan number 9, promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of the mother and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing things that make men and women different and unique. Wow. Trump's plan number 10, ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female. Drop the mic. And it's assigned to them at birth. And last but not least, number 11, Trump's plan. Number 11, protect the rights of the parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parents' consent. And with that being said, amen. God bless you. Like I said, Trump's election is good for America. Like I said, the 5 million, people that voted for him, I would say the 10 millions that voted down ballot, it's clear and it's an indicator that the Democratic Party, has to cease and desist. Okay. And more than likely looking like President Donald Trump is going to pretty much have a class action lawsuit because pretty much they're RICO, racketeering, influence, corruption organization. He weaponized the Department of Justice because we have a sitting president without a shadow of a doubt that pretty much they tried an attempted assassination. Okay. Been charged in Georgia and state of New York. And now got to drop those cases and they talking about his felon. He's a felon and all of this. I mean, come on, man. Listen, they threw the best. They threw everything at America, even the kitchen sink. And God will use anybody to make them look foolish. So we can and we will. Make America great again does not sound that bad. Okay, because when people sit back, especially in the dumb black community where I'm from, when was America ever great? Okay, when they won the Revolutionary War. When was America ever great? When they won the Civil War. When was America ever great? When they won World War I, World War II. And now that Trump's in office, he pretty much Zelensky called him. So they're going to figure this thing out. So it is what it is. But for the parents to have the right to protect children is a beautiful thing. The promotion of the nuclear family is a beautiful thing, because I remember when Biden said, was looking, talking about TV commercials and they showing same sex and all of this. It's just confusing. And God's people shall not perish, to the lack of knowledge. And God did not, the author of confusion, and he did not create the spirit of fear. So now that it's clear that the Democratic Party is anti-American and that the party is dead. And it's sad that Kamala Harris is going to go down in history as the sacrificial lamb for the party, because when they told her to pretty much, we got to turn the page. And when she turned the page, because she didn't want to go back to look at where we went wrong, and she's sitting back, we got to turn the page. And you know what? That next page said, the end. So party over. The Democratic Party is dead. And it's time for America to be the constitutional republic it is, and for us to respect the Oval Office and to work with the sitting, party that's in power, and to work for the American people and the constituents. Because at the end of the day, it's only one race, and that's the human race. And with that being said, man, y'all have an amazing day. It's been fun. Keep tapping in. I appreciate those likes. Hit the subscription, and we're going to continue to go up. So you guys have an amazing day, and happy Veterans Day to you. You guys take care. See y'all next time. My name is Bushan Glover, and you just tuned into A Better Black America TV. Peace out.